The following presentation was made possible by the Alltech Media Group, a Southern California multimedia company providing exponential branding and marketing services to all their clients. The Alltech Media Group understands the value of the 3W strategy, providing their clients proven, trackable results. Let us make it easy for you to grow your business. Visit alltechmedia.com.
I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker now. Our keynote speaker this morning was appointed as the 9th Chancellor of the University of California, Riverside by the UC Board of Regents on August 8, 2013. Previously, he served in leadership roles at Michigan State University, the University of Kansas, and the Kansas Board of Regents. He began his career at the University of Missouri. He is a first-generation college graduate with a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University. He earned a doctorate in speech and hearing science from Purdue University. He is deeply committed to supporting scholarly excellence, providing students with access to world-class higher education, and promoting meaningful public engagement. His vision for the campus is focused on reaffirming UCR's state and regional roots while positioning it as a truly global university. Please join me in welcoming, from the University of California, Riverside, Chancellor Kim Wilcox.
Welcome to everybody who's new here. I've been living in Riverside 2 years, 2 months. And my first night in my whole life in Riverside, California, I spent here at the Mission Inn. It was a Wednesday night, and I got up bright and early because I was going to become chancellor. And what was happening was Good Morning Riverside was happening Thursday morning. I see Cindy Roth nodding her head. So the first official thing I ever did in Riverside, California was come to a Good Morning Riverside. So it's like coming home. I'm going to say as many things as nice as I can about Good Morning Riverside so that Jack says good things about me when I sit down. So that's one. But it's sincere. Like I said, I've been here 2 years, and it's amazing to me to look around the room and see how many, not just friends, but how many good friends I count in the audience. And I won't go down the long list because it's just too long. I want to do lots of things this morning. First, I want to introduce some people. You were kind enough to let me speak last year, and I had the proud privilege of introducing some great new leadership to the university and to the city. I have the same pleasure today. So let me start. To my left is our new Vice Provost for International Affairs. Please stand. Kalechi Kalu. We're a great university, but we haven't had a leader, a designated leader for international activities in our past. We now have one, a Vice Provost for International Affairs. We're going to be deliberate about engaging with the rest of the world in the same way the city of Riverside, through its sister city organizations, has made an effort to reach out. We're going to be much more deliberate. We have lots of connections, lots of faculty, lots of students in lots of places, but we haven't been strategic and deliberate, and Kalechi is going to lead that. Kalechi comes to us from Ohio State University, where he was an associate vice provost for global affairs. And Kalechi grew up in Nigeria. And interestingly, he grew up idolizing Richard Nixon. And I think, in an extension to that, idolizing America. Because the reason he idolized Richard Nixon was because he knew that Richard Nixon worked as a janitor and then became president. And that says so much about Kalechi and what he aspires to, but also, I think, it says a lot about America and what we provide. Also, to my left is our new Dean of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, Milagros Peña. We call her Millie. Please stay standing, Millie. A couple things I want to say. Millie comes to us from the University of Florida, where she was an associate dean for arts and sciences in a college as large as our university in terms of faculty. And as an expert in women's studies and gender issues, literally a nationally renowned scholar. But importantly, you need to take a look at Millie. She's a former collegiate basketball player. Honest Injun. So please, all the athletes in the room, there's somebody to aspire to. Thanks, Millie. And there's one other person who gets stuck in traffic who was on the agenda. She's here. Oh, there she is. Please stand. Our new athletics director, Tamica Smith Jones, who comes to us from the University of Texas, San Antonio, where she was associate athletic director there, and has brought energy to our operation in just a few weeks' time. Tamica understands Riverside, understands Highlanders, understands what we're all about, so much so that she's taking bagpipe lessons so that she can play with the bagpipers at UCR. And we also just announced yesterday a new Dean of Natural and Agricultural Sciences, Katherine, who will come to us from Rutgers University. She's a polymer chemist. There's a Rutgers alum over there somewhere. She's a polymer chemist and entrepreneur, has started several businesses, so is, I believe, the right person to fit with so much of the aspirations of the city and the county and the region as we try to build our economic frame here. I've got, how much time, Mr. Chair? Sorry, Mr. Green. I could go on for hours about our university, and I could go on for hours just about what's happened in the last year. But let me shrink some of that down for you just a bit to get a sense. And I spoke here about this time last year. It was only a few weeks later that I went to Washington, D.C. with some people from this room to a higher education summit. Lots of people spoke, including the president. The president, in his speech, had 5 exemplars of programs around the country that he thought we should be thinking about as models for the future. And of those 5, UCR was engaged in 2 of them. The first was a collaboration in Riverside County with my good friend Ken Young and David Hansen and lots of other people in the room. I better not mention or I'll forget some. That's targeted at tying together our educational system from K-12 through community colleges through universities in a way that makes this more effective for the educational institutions, but more importantly for the students themselves. And the second call out, shout out for UCR, was like notion, a collaboration of universities from around the country. 11 of us from across the country, Texas, Oregon, and the like. We're the only California school in the consortium, looking at how do we make college more effective and more efficient and more attainable for students, particularly students from backgrounds that are underrepresented in universities. To be cited at all by the president and to be 40% of the citations is a real tribute to what all of you have done in creating a great university over many, many years. But that's not enough for us at UCR. This is arguably one of the times of greatest change in our university. We've had several of them, of course, the early 50s when we were created. There was a time in the 60s when things were growing a bit, then they fell off. Chancellor Orbach kind of moved things along, and there's been some periods of growth that coincided with contextual pieces around the country. This is another one of those for UCR. I regularly say we've been doing this, we're going to do this. And it has lots of components. The one that's gotten a lot of attention is our plan to add 300 faculty members to our campus. There's a lot, for those of you who work in universities, you know there's lots of different ways to count faculty. We have 900 instructional faculty now, 650, 680 tenure stream faculty members. We're going to add 300 tenure stream faculty members, so it's a 50% or 33% or some huge percent increase in faculty. And that numbers is something, but let's reflect on it for a minute. Think of our community if we had 48 fewer NEH fellows, 49 fewer Fulbright fellows, 19 fewer Guggenheim fellows, 200 fewer members of the Academy for the Advancement of Arts and Sciences. That's what right now is at UCR. 200 AAAS fellows, 48 Guggenheims, 49 Fulbrights. There's a huge pool of amazing people here because of UCR. And our intent is to expand that in the same kind of way so that that talent pool grows here in Riverside. 300 new faculty members means lots of things. It will mean some new students. It won't mean as many pro rata as faculty because we've essentially grown the student body over the past few years without growing the faculty. So we're kind of in a catch-up mode that way. We're going to enrich the environment for our students who are here more than what we will add some, but mostly it's a faculty science instructional base expansion. With that comes, of course, space. You've read in the paper where we have some ambitious plans on space. Many of those right now are going to focus on research and laboratory space and some classroom space. We've added residence hall rooms in the last couple of years. The space expansion, though, is part of a bigger plan, and I appreciate all of you who have participated in our community discussions on our long-range development plan. You saw the flyover, and Mr. Chairman here said, "Is that a drone?" Yep, that was a drone. And that's why there were no students in the pictures. We fly it early in the morning when the winds are down and you don't run into people, and kind of, that's so you can fly through buildings and things. We have a great, beautiful campus. It has some challenges. If I asked you, where's the front gate for UCR? You'd go, I joke and say we've turned our butts to the community. If you drive around the back, our Circle Drive, you see loading dock, back door, loading dock, loading dock. We're going to try to open ourselves up a little bit so that we are more connected to the community physically than we have been in the past. We're talking about redeveloping the northern part where all those barracks are and have been for 40 years, and I appreciate the community participation in those discussions of how we better utilize all that space. Those buildings were temporary buildings in 1960. Temporary is about done. We have great designs for the core of the campus. That's where some of these research buildings are going to be. Contiguity among our scientists is important. Not just the exchange of ideas, but shared facilities. We have a lot of research animals, rats and mice and things on campus. Consolidating those resources is very, not just efficient in terms of dollars, but also efficient in terms of science. So we're going to reinforce the core, and then, as I've said before, think to the south, to those hills, and how we can best take advantage of those vistas. So we have some I think, not just ambitious, but visionary notions about how to use the space that the state of California and the city has so generously supplied to us. We will be continuing those discussions, hopefully wrapping up that long-range development planning process in the next few months. So if you haven't had a chance to weigh in, please let me or some of the people in the room from the university know so you can get your input into those planning discussions. But there's more going on than just the physical and the things that meet the eye. I'm, as you know, immensely proud of our university, but I'll admit we have some challenges. And these are challenges that shouldn't be surprising given our history. About 15 years ago, we were 9,000 students, and now we're over 22,000 students. We've grown quickly, we've done it well. That's why the national accolades continue to come in. So it's not that we've been asleep at the switch, but we've been busy. And one of the places that we haven't had as much time as we might have liked to devote is to internal business processes and kind of infrastructure notions. And there's an awful lot of change going on right now within our university in that regard. We're building a new budget system. We're building a new personnel system. We have Ron Coley, who was introduced with leadership Riverside, but he's actually in Oakland today at the president's office, is leading an organizational excellence discussion. We're a university that grew up doing the best we did at the right time. But as you know from all your businesses, you start doing something some way and you keep doing it that way. It may have been the right way to do it in the first place, it may not have been the right way to do it, but it's still the way you do it. We're backing up and saying, okay, is this the right way to process travel? Is this the right way to process purchasing? Is this the right way to process appointments and onboarding? And it's not just Ron. Ron has led a discussion across the campus. The last one had 300 employees, the people who actually do the processing, working in teams to re-engineer all of our business processes. Now, in an organization like all of yours where there's too much to do and not enough time to do it, for people to volunteer to take some of that precious time and devote to re-engineering is a credit to them, but also a credit to what their goals and aspirations are. We're really going to rebuild the business processes of the whole university. We're going to build a budgeting system that doesn't reflect the 20th century, but instead reflects the 21st. If I had been chancellor in choose a date, 82, I would have been worried about state support because it made up 3/4 of my budget. I'm not the chancellor in 1982. I'm the chancellor in 2015, where state support makes up less than 30%, 25%, something like that of my budget. I have to be concerned about, not Mr. Simmerlin, I'm still concerned about the 25%. I'm looking at Jose, who's been a great friend for us in the legislature. But I also have to be thinking about other things, and that's other resources, other sources of resources, private giving, research dollars, tuition. Tuition now is much larger contribution to our budget than state support is. And equally importantly, I have to be focused on how we use the money in a way that brings a new sense of responsibility and energy around budget management. So I'm looking at our new dean. She has responsibility not just for managing and spending money, but unlike a dean in 1982, she has responsibility for making money. She has a responsibility for bringing in private money, private donors, for research dollars, and for thinking about the flow of dollars within the university in such a way that benefits us all. This is not about teaching classes so students take a lot of classes. Yes, it is. It's about teaching classes so students succeed. It's about teaching classes in a way, You said I had all the time I wanted. I just realized you're not sitting down there. It's also about teaching classes in a way that manages the fund flow across the university effectively. That's a whole different kind of budgeting infrastructure and mindset for the university, and a different set of responsibilities for the individuals involved. I'm convinced we have the faculty talent, given the accolades our university receives, to move ahead in the future, and I'm convinced we have the leadership and the skills and experience there to help us move into the future in a real invigorated way. So change, but there's some things that aren't going to change. And I think the place I started with kind of represents that. These call-outs from the President of the United States. If you note, both of those were about partnerships. Both of those were about helping others who traditionally haven't been as successful as they should have been or could have been, be more successful. Those things are what defines the University of California, Riverside. That notion of we're in this together, and we're in this together to achieve something greater than we might have been able to achieve by ourselves. That's what defines us on the national scene. That's what defines us on the local scene. And that's because what all of you have done over decades now to create a university in Riverside that has those values and lives those values. My promise to you is we're going to stand by that commitment. We're going to do it at an ever larger and more fast-moving pace than we have in the past. We're going to continue to be a national player, and I believe more so every day, because what we are doing at UCR is increasingly what America wants all of higher education to be. And we're going to do it the very, very best we can. Thanks so much to all of you for all that you do for our university through the year, and individually to all my friends, thanks so much for making me feel a part of the community.
Thank you, Chancellor. Tamica Smith Jones is our new athletic director for the University of California at Riverside, and she is coming to us because as a business organization, community-based organization, the Chamber should be aware that UCR is the largest employer in the city of Riverside and the only UC located in the inland Southern California region. Please welcome Ms. Smith Jones to Riverside.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Good to see you again. Good morning, Riverside. Good morning. Well, I'm honored to have the platform today. Thank you, Chancellor, for sharing it with me. It's been a pleasure to be in Riverside. This community is very warm. I'm a native of Atlanta, Georgia, so Riverside and its history really means a lot to me. So I'm enjoying getting to know each and every one of you all, and what makes this city as great as it has been, as I've heard about. Now being in it, I feel like I'm actually having an opportunity to continue the history and the legacy that goes on in this type of setting. So as your athletic director at UCR, your only Division I institution, I had to say that for Micah, my friend over here. I just want to make sure that you all understand why I'm here and why I do what I do. I'm an illustration of hope. That's what I am. I'm one of the student athletes that I see on my courts and my fields every day. As a former student athlete, as a former coach, as an administrator now. So what I do every day is try to make sure they have the tools, the resources to make their dreams come true. So I have this cliche, I say it's a ball and a dream. That's what it was for me. Growing up in Atlanta in the backyard, my parents gave me a basketball, they gave me a court, and they said, this will get you a scholarship to college. And it actually did. So for those that are in this Riverside community, the Inland Empire, I want to make sure that I go through every crack and crevice, wherever people have not been, from the desert all the way to the city, to let them know they can have an opportunity to higher education. And this is what life is about. It's educating yourself. It's doing the things that you desire to do. And I believe that everyone has something great in them that no one else can do but them. But most young people are not getting told that every day. They're getting told they only need to be concerned about sports, entertainment, music, but we need to stop talking and glorifying the rock stars that are doing that and glorify those rock stars that are actually in higher education. And that's why it's an honor to be here. I see Patricia and some of the people that I've been able to get into some small sectors with, and I'm very proud to be representing UCR and the athletic department. So I need two things from you. Good morning, Riverside. I just want to make sure you're still up. The first thing I need you to do is I need your presence. So if you have never been to a Highlander game, you've never seen the Bears, and I know we're small Bears right now in the big scheme of California Bears, but I'm telling my program that we're going to be big Bears, and they're right, Coach Cutts. Coach Cutts is one of my team leaders. I need your presence. So we have a full schedule of activities going on in 17 sports, and they're all doing very well, been doing well. They'll do even better if they had people in the seats and supporting them. If you can't make it, send your young people. Send your young people. I need businesses to underwrite busing the Riverside Unified School District to UCR. I'm working on that as I speak. I've talked to some people. I see some nods because I've been to some of the law firms and everywhere asking people to underwrite, and they've agreed. So I need your presence. The second thing, I need you to promote UCR. Thank you. I need you to promote UCR everywhere you go. If you're not getting a newsletter directly from me, send me an email, tamica@ucr.edu, and I will keep you informed with everything that's going on. Thank you again, and thank you, Riverside, for having me.